Hello and welcome to our WIFR Fastcast. I'm Daniel Burbank from the WIFR News Now desk. A 17-year-old teen is found guilty for stabbing and killing another teen in Sycamore. Hamza Kataba was found guilty of second-degree murder, armed violence, and aggravated battery. Kataba stabbed Caleb McCall September 2023 during a fight in downtown Sycamore. The trial started Tuesday, and a verdict was reached within 2 hours on Friday. The suspect testified in court Thursday, confessing to the crime, claiming self-defense. 33-year-old former Rockford police officer Tyler Helgerson was found guilty of beating his girlfriend in November 2024. Helgerson hit the woman several times and dragged her in a house in the 4200 block of Buckingham Drive. Helgerson admitted he used department-issued handcuffs to restrain the woman. The woman also said the former officer prevented her from having a car, social media, and a job. 26-year-old Isaiah Washington of Beloit will spend almost 6 decades in prison for sexually assaulting 2 girls. In April 2024, Washington sexually assaulted a 13-year-old in a Janesville apartment. An 11-year-old girl told authorities Washington sexually assaulted her in a Beloit home. He must be supervised for 30 years when he finishes his sentence. Rockford City Council member Mark Bonney faces felony charges accused of driving under the influence. The charges come from a traffic stop in late January in the area of Harrison and Alpine Road in Rockford. The Winnebago County State's Attorney's Office says the charges were upgraded because Bonney committed the same offense on 2 other occasions. If convicted, he could spend years behind bars or face a big fine. A Rockford woman says she's in urgent need for help as her Social Security payments are on hold. This is Tina Johnson. She says she hasn't gotten her Social Security disability insurance benefits since July 2025. She claims she sold a home and bought another, which triggered a holdup of her income. Without her usual $967 a month, she struggles paying for utilities and medications. Nathaniel Langley speaks to Johnson on why she hopes the community can help her on her feet.
I no longer have auto insurance. I no longer have homeowners insurance. I no longer have credit cards. Those are gone. My credit score is down in the toilet.
President Donald Trump slams the U.S. Supreme Court after 6 justices strike down his sweeping use of tariffs. The justices wrote that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act does not authorize the president to impose tariffs. The ruling also impacts the so-called reciprocal tariffs that the president announced last April on nearly all countries.
Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed.
Congressman Eric Sorensen says President Trump's tariffs have bankrupted farmers, caused small businesses to close, and made it harder for neighbors to pay their bills. He also says Trump recklessly and unlawfully taxed every American, and today the Supreme Court righted this wrong. Sorensen says it's time for House Republicans to join Democrats to provide real cost relief for working families and repair our economy. Congressman Darren LaHood says the Supreme Court's ruling clarified the scope of International Emergency Economic Powers Act authority. He says we need to be cautious about predicting the U.S. economy on tariffs. LaHood says Congress and the administration must focus on advancing trade policies that support competitiveness, long-term economic growth, and counter the unfair trade practices on foreign countries. We are approaching the first State of the Union address of President Donald Trump's second term. WIFR Washington correspondent Brendan Cullerton breaks down how Trump has attempted to reshape the presidency.
From tariffs to DOGE to immigration enforcement, President Donald Trump has enacted unique and polarizing policies. Some of these policies have not been seen in a century, others never before. We asked historical experts to weigh in.
I, Donald John Trump.
From the moment he was inaugurated, President Trump hit the ground running. George Washington University professor Todd Belt says Trump demonstrated his desire to work without Congress when he signed a record 26 executive orders on his first day.
was about 70 even within the first week, and just one of those undid 76 executive orders by Joe Biden. And since that time, he's racked up over 200.
Several of those orders have dramatically altered U.S. policy.
Trump has been the most consequential president in the 21st century.
Trump's signature tariff policy pushed the limits on executive power, and the Supreme Court ruled a majority of those tariffs were unconstitutional. Professor Michael Kazin says such consequential policy being held up in courts is rare. It happened most recently when FDR attempted to pass sweeping federal regulations to recover from the Great Depression.
That was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 1935. And also, the Supreme Court was so hostile, usually at least, to Roosevelt's initiatives in the 1930s to the New Deal, that he infamously tried to pack the court.
The tariff ruling was a loss for the president, but this Supreme Court has also handed him several wins, limiting federal judges' ability to block his actions, granting him immunity from criminal prosecution for acts taken in his presidential capacity, and allowing racial profiling for an immigration crackdown Kazin says has blurred the line between immigrants here legally and illegally.
So we haven't seen that ever since the 1920s, when immigrants were I think demonized is the right word.
Trump is struggling in the polls after the dramatic changes during his first term, but Belt says polling shows the downswing in popularity goes beyond executive power.
Voters do care about democracy, but it's a little bit down on the list. Number one is performance. And of course, performance of the economy is just about everything.
Trump's power to act unilaterally would greatly diminish if Democrats take one or both chambers of Congress in the midterms. In Washington, I'm Brendan Cullerton.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and state lawmakers call for lawmakers to pass a bill that would ban cell phones in the classroom. The proposed bill would require all school districts across the state to adopt a policy to limit phones on school grounds during the day. 72% of high school teachers say cell phone distractions are a major problem in their classrooms. Research also shows overusing cell phones in teens can lead to stress, depression, and sleep issues.